A
một gã
man
đàn
in a naked mask? Step by step breaking into a farmer's household. The farmer woman is breastfeeding, subconsciously wanting to call for help, but your husband isn't home. The masked man quickly gagged his nose. That a woman can't make a sound. Your ears can't hear. The man threatened to stop screaming. If you call again, he'll hurt you and your son. He's the most evil sex demon in China. In 15 years, 380 rapes were committed. Countless women have been brutally murdered. Even the 65-year-old doesn't. When the craziest, he harmed 5 women in one night. And even within 2 consecutive days of rape, the same woman 3 times. He's one of the most astute criminals. More than 15 hiding. He was finally caught in an unexpected way. He has a wife who has a good job. But why would they commit such a horrific crime? It all started in 1972. On a summer night, a young peasant woman in the village of 18 prostitutes, Beijing suburbs, are at home breastfeeding. Suddenly a man, he was wearing a naked mask, and entered the house. The farmer wanted to call for help, but her husband was not at home. The man in the mask quickly gagged her nose. You can't scream. Her ears heard the man threaten that don't cry anymore. If you call again, he'll hurt you and your son. The farmer was afraid she had no choice. I only know silence. Let the masked man do whatever he wants. The whole process doesn't take too long. The masked man finished his work and left. The weak farmer woman. She hesitated for a few days before telling her husband this story. Husband immediately report to the Revolutionary Committee. The committee sent people to investigate, but it was too dark at the time. The woman was so panicked. I can't remember any useful information. I have no idea what that guy looks like. I don't even know high or low. Fat or skinny, Revolutionary Committee can only temporarily put this issue aside. But only after a few days. Another village in the sleeping area. Someone else reported a similar incident. This is also in the middle of the night. A beautiful young girl is sleeping. Suddenly, a man climbed through the window into the girl screamed for help, resisting desperately. But there's no other AI in the house. The man threatened the girl with words to save lives. The girl had no other way, obeying all the requirements of the wicked, standing in front of me. After the atrocity is over, the intruder did not leave immediately. I searched the entire house, take away all the valuables in the house. Before leaving, that's the same number of reports that the Revolutionary Committee gets more and more. The incidents were mainly concentrated in Songqiu town, area 10 kilometers outside the center. The perpetrators of this mass crime are arrogant. Each time before the attack, he's calling himself a fake thug. The victims. I can't tell you what this person looks like, apart from not being able to see clearly due to darkness. And the other reason is that every time a crime is committed, they're all wearing a black mask, only to reveal the eyes that look outside. The Revolutionary Committee. I can't find enough information to solve the case quickly. While the criminal becomes more and more dishonest, the frequency of crime is getting higher. Sometime later, the old thug's reputation is over. Lan is everywhere. It scares people. Folk word of mouth says that Old Thug Songqiu is a gang of thugs. It operates mainly in the upper city areas, Hamili and Duong. They specialize in breaking into the house, raping women, and robbing property. Under the pressure of these rumors, young girls don't dare to leave the house. They hurriedly locked the door when they got home. The men in the house couldn't go to work at night. They're afraid the old thug will break in when there's no AI at home to harm women in the family. It's been 2 years since I first received the report. To catch the fake thug, the local government has deployed 300 soldiers and set up guard posts in each village. It creates a strong protective network. At that time, the militia has become a paramilitary organization, are thoroughly trained, basic knowledge of military and tactical matters. So the militia was focused on protecting the villages that a thug can commit a crime. This trick really works. On the first day protection was established, the thug fell into the trap. The incident happened in the middle of the night. Militia soldiers, suddenly I heard a woman's voice call for help from the village. So they quickly ran into relief. But when we get inside the house, they just saw the girl calling for help and didn't see the criminal. Atsao is ready, but still one step late. The reason is very unfortunate. The militia set up guard stations and used the classic security method. So the people who were deployed didn't go into the village, waiting outside the village gate. And about the criminal arrest scheme, the militia only informed village officials. The ordinary people know nothing. The result is, the thug actually came to the village at the time of paying the gold, while the militia hasn't arrived yet. When the thug committed the crime in the middle of the night, the militia is still out in the wilderness. It's like being on guard for a thug. Only when the panicked victim screams. The soldiers heard the sound and rushed to the scene. But the criminal ran away. The militia asked the girl where the thug had run. Panicked girl points to the back door. Since the girl called for help until the militia arrived at the scene, it only takes a few minutes. In this short period of time, how far can the thug run? There is a high probability of not leaving the village. The militia quickly chasing out the back door. A search begins in the surrounding fields. The soldiers are hiding in other villages, also come to help, and many people are also involved in the search. Hundreds of these people worked all night and chased for about 4 out of 5 miles, but until the dawn, still no trace of the thug. Instead, the militia soldiers made the chase. Because they're coming from different places, don't know each other, focus your search in an area in the dark, easily confused with the target. So there's been a lot of confusion. When we catch each other, in the midst of despair, the military has no other way. In addition to reporting that the 7 arrests, old thug may have escaped through a gap in the network before the militia encircled, or maybe he met the militia. But in the dark, he escaped their pursuit and eventually exit. This has taught the militia a lesson. In the future, before carrying out similar arrest operations, the militia will notify every resident in the village. At the same time, the militia leadership also realized the case. It's the professional work of the police. So the arrest of the thug, it's been handed over to 13 police, Beijing City. When the professional investigators arrive, the real reason why 7 volunteers fail in the arrest was also quickly found. There's a pile of wheat straw in the backyard of the victim's house. There's traces of the person who slept inside. There's fresh shit nearby. Based on this, it can be concluded that the attacker did not flee at the time. It's hearing the sound of the militia outside. I know I can't run away directly. So he's been hiding in the wheat straw for a while and sleep through the night. The next morning, the militia thought Operation 7 failed and withdrew. The old thug is waking up now. When you see the surrounding empty people, he walked out arrogantly, pooping on the spot, before safely leaving. It's a shame. The soldiers, the militia lacks experience in criminal investigations. Not looking for the scene. It's just about pulling the grid out to find it. That's why the thug got away. More than 100 people were arrested after studying the characteristics of the fake thug. The police quickly drew some rules. Based on the circumstances of the case, the thug's area of activity mainly concentrated in the local countryside. Most houses in the countryside have their own yard. There is usually distance between them. The criminal has more space to move. When criminals easily hide themselves, Calling for help from the victim is not easy. Buzzing neighbors. Out. Another characteristic of local rural housing. The window is divided into two parts. The top is cheap paper. The bottom is more expensive glass. This is the people's second choice. Keep natural light and save money. And the locals don't have the habit of hanging curtains and window locks. So the thug easily check the situation inside the house through the glass under the window to determine if there's a man in the house, or directly infiltrate to probe. Although the locality is rural, but most young men working at a coking plant on the outskirts of the city. Many people have to work at night. Only old people, women, and children at home. Thugs pick single women, have children as targets of attack, or a dormitory, where many educated young people live. The locals usually live in the east room, while the thug usually comes from the west room. There are no people. Every time you start to act, the thug would open the window into the room. It's only after we get to the house that we start taking off our clothes. They finally appear in front of women, with naked pictures, body only cover with black cloth. Then commit the VI offense. Every time before he committed a crime, he introduced himself. I'm the fake hooligan. Because of the large number of female victims, the criminal name of the Rogue Old Man, it's 10 miles wide. Many people have only heard of this name. I was afraid to fall off my feet and not dare to fight anymore. When the scoundrel finished his crime, he'll retreat to the main room, get dressed, and run away. Sometimes he takes a lot of random property. Police based on small details to speculate that criminals are not a group. It's the same person. This man is, of course, the thug in question. At first. After knowing his case will be taken over by the police, the thug is not only fearless. On the contrary, he was a little excited. Then he stepped up his criminal activity. One night, a thug approaches a woman's house as usual. Take off all your clothes, cover your face, and find the woman. But this time he had a hard time. The girl in that house, she's the president of the local women's union. When you hear something moving outside, the girl flipped over from the bed and blocked the door. The thug pushed a few, but couldn't open the door. He did not take time and immediately threatened, "Don't think you're done blocking the door today. I'll be waiting for me tomorrow." After the thug left, the girl immediately reported the incident to the police. Based on police experience, we know other criminals, they may just say threats. But if it's about this old thug, it's getting more serious. So an emergency plan was put in place. A guard station was set up outside the village, and a policewoman is arranged to pose as female host, waiting for the fake thug in the east room. There were two people standing under the window of the house, ready to arrest the thug. After arranging the staff the next night, the real old thug back to the house of the local female president. But when he got to the east room window and looked inside one, he turned and ran back. Without ever going inside the house, the situation changed too quickly. There was fog that night, because the guards didn't get there. So this operation ended in 70 feet. Thug. How to recognize the situation is not right. The head of the police doesn't understand. Until when he entered the policewoman's east room. The reason becomes clear. On the bedside table in the east room, there's a jar of cigarette butts, in which a cigarette is not completely turned off. The thug saw a little light. Fire in the room from outside the window, so he speculates that the room contained another man. No need to think, he knew that the man in the room come for him, so he quickly ran away. Nearly caught this time, no pressure on the thug. He's not only fearless, but more confident about future actions. One day a thug sneaks into the house as usual. Complete the flower picking operation. Then, he saw a 70-pound bag of rice in the yard. That is, he picked up a bag of rice and walked away. The day the thug left, the injured woman in the house ran out and reported the incident. When investigators arrive at the scene, the criminal was gone for over an hour. The police suspect that the thug was carrying 70 pounds of rice on his back. Can't go fast. I can only travel 3 kilometers in an hour. So the police started an investigation within a radius of 3 kilometers from the scene. As a result, the thug has been on the run for a long time. The police didn't find any clues. This search failed 7 times. Is due. The police underestimated the thug's speed of escape. Maybe for normal people, carrying 70 pounds of rice and walking 3 kilometers in an hour is too much. But the thug is no ordinary man. It's one of his greatest characteristics, is to run fast. Then, the police decided to use the stalking method. Let some people watch day and night in the village, waiting for the thug to show up. One night a military investigator. I met someone with suspicious behavior. Although not sure, but the investigator still calls for an hour. I can't believe the enemy didn't stop. Turn your head as usual, but run straight ahead. Only then will the scout be sure, and quickly chase the shadow in front. As a result, they chased each other for a long time. Investigator not only can't keep up with the darkness ahead, but the distance is getting further and further away. I'm not used to the terrain. The investigator slipped into the rat hole, dislocated ankle on the spot, forced to stop the chase. This arrest, the police saw it, the thug's admirable speed of escape. Prepare for next time. There will be no more arrests for failing to keep up. The police decided to change their strategy and use police dogs to assist. No matter how fast you run, you can't be faster. The dog has been trained. Since then, there have been dog trainers in the village, patrol with police dogs everywhere. After a while of waiting, I finally saw the thug show up. This time, the police ordered the police dogs to chase. But the amazing thing is, after 10 minutes, the police dog is back with his ears down. This is not the normal behavior of police dogs. In the process of training, police dogs have never been in such a situation. The coach can't understand. What did the police dog encounter that scared him so much? What method did the thug use? That can be easy. Escape the pursuit of police dogs. In fact, the result is so related to the thug's profession. He's a veterinarian in the countryside, frequently moving around for healing, for cattle. Go so much. He's not only familiar with the surrounding terrain, but also train your feet as fast as flying. Many times before, he's out of the police eye. Just because you run faster, completely exceeded the police's expectations. Let's talk about the first time the thug committed a crime. The woman is breastfeeding 10 kilometers from his house, but it took him less than 40 minutes to get home. With the super Vietnamese characteristics of this experience, the police gave him the nickname Flying Leg of 18 whores. Except for being a forensic doctor, so the thug needs to be exposed to the drugs when curing cattle. Being chased by dogs, this time he's just operated on a cattle. And there's still this special smell of medicine. The dog smells this. Immediately cause physiological reactions. I thought I was going to get injected and run back. However, although this time the thug escaped danger, but this event alerted him. To date, he's carried hundreds of bloody cases. The most brutal time. He can hurt 5 girls in one day. There were times when he would be there for 3 days. Continuous rape of a girl. And when desire flares up in extremes, he's not just attacking beautiful young girls. Not even ignore the 65-year-old. Such a dishonest act was restrained after seeing the police dog. Maybe he was scared and felt unrestrained. There will be serious consequences. So, for a long time afterwards, the old thug didn't commit any more crimes. The police didn't get a report either about the arrival of the old thug. Everyone thinks that the arrogant, evil old man. I will wash my sword from there. But in the winter of 1976, the evil old man appears again. The old thug thought, after such a long silence, people have forgotten him. But in fact, the police never gave up on him. After the attack this time, the thug was chased by a group of police. Because it's winter, there was snow on the ground where he ran. Footprints on the ground follow. This makes it almost impossible to hide. As he ran to the door, the thug did not dare to enter. Again worried that the footprints behind will reveal his whereabouts, he had an idea. Temporary. First, run around your house. Then follow the footprints that the passers-by left behind. Run back to Gautrain. Not long after, the police chase saw the thug's footprints around the house. I thought he was hiding in the house. But after an in-house inspection, no way I was found. The police could only return without result. Doubts about the house were also removed because the last test didn't work. By this time, the thug had left the Gautrain, but he wasn't in a hurry to get home, but carefully run another big round to confirm environmental safety before carefully returning home. This time, the gangster was almost caught. He thought it through and decided to keep hiding. For the next 6 years, he didn't commit another crime. Finally, rumors about the old gangster at the Double Bridge gradually settling down, people seemed to have forgotten about him. Time moved to 1982. It's been 15 years since the thug committed his first crime. At this point in time, China is in the early stages of opening up reform. Economic growth is starting to move forward strongly. Maybe because of old age. The thug's mind, it doesn't stop at picking flowers, catching butterflies as before. He turned his eyes to money. One day a thug showed up at a store. Supply and consumption. Looks like a normal customer. When paying, he took the opportunity to observe the little box on the counter, a place full of cash. His bad intentions immediately arose. Then he yelled at the female clerk in the counter, "I'm a fake thug. If you want to stay alive, give me all the money in the box." Heard of this old thug? Female staff in the fear counter, and there's no resistance. Just give him all the money in the box. But while giving money to the old thug, the female employee's hands trembled with fear. As a result, the money fell to the ground. So as not to anger the old thug, female staff quickly bent over to pick up the money. This action has been delayed for some time, but also accidentally put the old thug in an unexpected situation, because when female employees pick up money from the ground and hand it over to the thug, there is someone else now. It's outside, prepared to enter the supply and consumption store. The thug couldn't believe. When he got the money, prepared to leave with joy. His free life has also begun to count down. The one who helped him count down was a young man. Powerful is entering the cooperative sales store. From the outside, the thug who ran into him. They both looked at each other for a moment. The clerk at the grocery store is screaming, "Water Village, robber catch robber." The thug heard screams, throw everything away, and run away. The young man was a little confused when you see the enemy running away, but I also reacted immediately. Fast foot chasing behind. They chase each other on the street. When I heard that the banished man was a robber, many people in the area, he also participated in the chase. For a time, the pursuit team was very large. It's become a wonder on the outskirts of Beijing. But it wasn't long before the mighty army disintegrated. The thug ran too fast. Most people can't keep chasing. And there's only one strong guy, at first still persistent chase closely behind. The thug got it now. I found out that I've met the rock of my life. In fact, the guy is chasing the thug is a veteran of the same province. I went to the grocery store to buy salt for my family. Meeting the robber was completely accidental. This guy is healthy. Won a youth marathon by the city. Organization. Chasing the thug continuously for 23 kilometers. There is no difficulty for him. Just when you see it, the number of people on the chase team is decreasing. In the end, he was alone. He can't help but think in his heart, if the robber has a fence, do it. Think about this. He's naturally looking around while he's running. I just see the surrounding quiet. Next to it is a low stone wall. He ran to the side of the wall, take down a big brick from the wall. The robber is not far ahead. The boy with the brick continued to chase, running more than 10 kilometers, but the guy in the back didn't give up. The robber who ran ahead couldn't run anymore. He stopped in position, ready to fight with your opponent, but did not expect. The boy chased me. Don't give him a chance to fight. The boy's hands went up, a big brick, and hit the robber, followed by a series of punches and kicks. The thug didn't have time to respond. He was considered a thief and was taken to the local police. People from the police department said they can't handle this case. For a very simple reason. Robbers robbed money on the outskirts of Beijing. While this is District 3 of Lower Hebei Province, the robber fled from the outskirts of Beijing to Hebei. Police officers in Sanha contacted the Beijing Suburban Police, and then the robber was turned over to the Suburban Police, Beijing. However, he was arrested for robbery, and the corresponding amount is not large. Suburban cops don't care about thugs, and just put him in jail without a care. The old thug has been abandoned for more than 20 days. I only eat vegetables and bread every day. Life is hard. He had nothing to kill. Time spent in the room. Finally, he had only thoughts and worries. The police may be trying to collect 10 pieces of evidence to accuse him. To divert the attention of the police and make them think that I'm just a small thief. The thug used a stupid trick and confessed that he was involved in a burglary 2 years ago. The thug hoped that this will get the police to issue an order, an earlier trial. And after 3 days, finally, someone came to judge him. He thought his plan had worked. However, he didn't know the police were watching him. In fact, at the time, the police department received a request from the superior to do another task. The whole office is busy with this. There's no time to investigate a petty robber until the thug voluntarily confessed to the theft. Extrametube 2 years ago. The police finally sent someone to interrogate him. 2 police officers came in for questioning. The interrogation began with the point-of-sale robbery, and according to documents handed over from Hebei Police, most of the content is related to the robbery process, not to mention the pursuit 10 miles after the case. So until now, the thug's ability to run fast has not been revealed. The police officer's name was Sun. I have no interest in the thief in front of me. It's still just a day job. However, when the thug confessed to the theft, Extrametube 2 years ago, and said he broke into a finance department and took more than 1,000 yuan. That's not a small amount in the 80s. It could be a big case. The old man suddenly cared. Start talking to the robber and check every single detail. When I asked him, he suddenly remembered something. Why does this sound familiar? He stopped and thought. I finally remember that was the case in the old thug's file. He was only talking about stealing the finance department. That's it. But in fact, he violated a girl. These two cases, it's not separate in police records, which is general in the file of the old thug's case. The old days in the years the old thug was hiding. The police have continuously investigated and collect 10 pieces of information in the corresponding file. Confirm the suspect in front of you. It's not a fabricator. The old man used the trick and interrogated about many of the related to the case of stealing the financial department. The result is, it all matches the notes in the file. Just like that, the robber has finally been identified. He is the only suspect in the series. Thugs years ago. He escaped several times in front of the police. Thug feet fly at 18 whore. Now the phony thug's psyche has completely collapsed. During the next interrogation, he completely gave up the resistance. The police are honest about what they ask. Finally, after the statistics, he's committed 380 crimes in 15. The old thug case in Songkyu has been exposed to the light. Everybody's curious about the sinister form of this notorious criminal. Can he make the whole land afraid? Over the years, people always live in confusion, but the truth makes people seven. The fake thug is not tall, as big and cruel as everyone thinks. He's just a normal guy. In the suburbs of Beijing, with ugly and small appearance, his height is only 6 feet. In more than 300 cases, the victims all said the violent criminal was a big man that they couldn't resist. This clue has seriously interfered into the police judgment. But for the victim, such a description seems plausible. Finally, women's virginity at the time. It's a real shame. To ease the psychological burden, victims often try to emphasize that they really can't resist and exaggerate the image of the criminal. Here we can know. The name of the fake thug is the City S. So, how did he go down the path of crime? He's got a veterinary job. He can make a good income, living life without worrying about lack of dress. He had many brokers before. Let him get married. He also quickly married a woman from Hebei. It should be a harmonious family, live a stable, peaceful life. It's better to live a normal life. But why does he still have to leave the house and harm other girls? According to the confession of the police, the reason is still the relationship. Marriage is not harmonious. After marriage, Li said he had a good time. But after a long time, appetite habits, his wife's laziness was gradually revealed. Li Baocheng has always been patient with his wife's unpleasant weaknesses and live a very boring life. But this is not a long-term solution. In the end, he couldn't take it anymore, and the conflict between the two flared up. The wife began to deliberately keep her distance from They even asked me to sleep in my own room. The city is very young. Nature can't stand such treatment. 1972, he had a big fight with his wife. Because there's no harmony in your sex life, then get angry and go out of the house. She said she doesn't know where to go next, can only loiter around nearby villages. After a long time, the hatred in his heart did not diminish. On the contrary, it accumulates and it turns into a sinister scheme. Because his wife at home wouldn't let him have sex, so he'll ask someone else to do it. And from there, the abuse of a farmer who's breastfeeding. It happened. The first time a crime, the state of mind is also panicked, so the process ends very quickly. When he finished, he was quick. Run home quickly, but the results weren't what he expected. There's no chasing or catching. The reason for this is to feel the sweetness. His courage also increased. That's the second time since. Third time and many times after. Police, I can't understand the law of justice forever. Because for most serial criminals, the repetition of previous successful criminal experience, it's the best choice. And feel the safest. Police, we just need to figure out the criminal's code of conduct. The arrest will be easier. But the reason is, although he's also a serial criminal, but his actions are completely unregulated. Sometimes he will commit a crime when the police are conducting extensive inspections. But when the police pretend to help the force, to try to get the snake out of the cave, he was once again completely gone. There's no news. The most serious moment, the same victim. He's been assaulted 3 times in 2 days. Every time after the police investigation left, he came back to commit a crime. The way, crime without this rule gives the police a headache. Finally, after being interrogated, the criminal motive of Lee Baoeng, it's all related to family. In fact, every time he commits a crime, it all comes down to arguing with your wife. When fighting at home, he's bored, and went out to find another woman to relieve. Now the truth about the incident has been revealed. He was arrested and executed after half a year. The surrounding villagers can finally rest assured. But the impact that the evil behavior of the city of reason brings, the girls he raped, still can't be compensated for major physical and mental damage that they have to endure. The darkness he created for the victim's family, it's not over yet. The police have to check every case. That's why the city confessed. While for the victims and their families, many people don't want to repeat that. So the police came back. It often brings new upheaval to these families. At this level, the city is executed. It's not unfair. His actions have caused great negative impact on society. So, back to personal security. His image in the eyes of his family, just a weak man who's been bullied by his wife. Even after a fight, he didn't dare do anything at home either. I can only hide out the door to find an external balance. But when you go out, he became a completely different person. Full of lawless evil. It's like a two-faced person. During the day, he wears a mask in his house to match the title. Is a husband, a veterinarian who's dedicated to the profession. And when the night falls, he came back as a sex demon. Evil no one catches a thug that the AI is afraid of. Different in identity, to bring awareness to different behaviors. Lee Baoeng switch between two personalities easily. It's like wearing and taking off a mask. Of course, these things only exist in the environment. It's just that environment that year, providing a living environment for criminals that is in the current society. Surveillance cameras are everywhere. To hide a person's true face is no longer the thing. Easy so. Cases are like double life. It's hard to last long. Let's look at the case of Lee Bao. We can see the limitations of identity for humans. We can also see the level of psychological impact. It's about how human nature is right. Human nature always has a bad side. In life, you rarely meet evil people by birth. It's often because of bad intentions in human nature, always caught in the gaze of others. I've often heard before that if there's too many surveillance systems in society, would invade personal privacy. But from the story of Lee Bao, we understood that being supervised, it is also an effective security measure. I want to live in the sunlight. We have to let the sunlight shining in every corner, maybe where the darkness is hiding. Of course, darkness always exists and crime always continues to grow. It's just what measures we're going to prepare, just to face them. Okay, thank you for following up so far. Don't forget to send a like and a like. Subscribe to the channel. Thank you and see you at the next session. Goodbye.
What do you think about this issue? Please leave a comment below for everyone to know and discuss. Goodbye and see you again.